And welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me here this afternoon. I've got a lot of stuff planned for us today, including we're going to look at some schedules. There is an interesting article out about the toughest schedules for next season that may be in the mix, so we'll get into that. We've got several other things. Dabo Sweeney apparently is battling COVID-19. We can talk a little bit about that if you want, and how he was basically in the mix. That was got into the mix simply because someone mentioned it on Twitter or on a YouTube video, which is kind of funny. But we're also going to talk about the transfer portal today. The Gamecocks pick up 2 players from the transfer portal that it's very interesting. And I'll tell you why. They get them from the same school, which is something that's, to me is unique. Okay. So talk about that. Let's get with that first. South Carolina today picked up 2 players from St. Francis, which is a school up in Pennsylvania. Jason Brown is the quarterback they picked up, along with wide receiver E.J. Jenkins. Brown is coming off a season. He led the Northeast Conference in passing yards, throwing for over 3,000 yards in the Northeast Conference. So big-time numbers there. Passing touchdowns, 28 during the 2019 season, 39. And then Jenkins, by the way, had 39 catches for 779 yards and 13 touchdowns. So half of the touchdowns that Brown threw that season went to the young man Jenkins. Now, also, these are record-setting numbers for the St. Francis program. They went 6-6 last year, 3-4 in conference play. Now, they didn't play this was for the 2019 season. Let's make sure we understand that. They did not play this season due to COVID-19 issues, where the conference just didn't play. Here's the other interesting part. Brown was a 2-star recruit out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Same thing goes for Jenkins, but Brown was 6'5", 205 when he got out of high school. He now checks in at 6'4", 225 pounds. That young man has hit the weight room, ladies and gentlemen, but it's even more different with the young man Jenkins. Now, he had offers out of high school from Ohio, Monmouth, Delaware State, Delaware, and Old Dominion. Was going to go to Old Dominion, decided to go play for St. Francis. Here's the really interesting thing with him. He was listed 6'5" coming out of high school, 205 pounds. He is now 6'8", 235 pounds. He is right now the tallest player on the Gamecock roster at 6'8". Now, here's my big thing with this. Transfers, you don't know exactly how they're going to work out. I mean, you could have a good transfer like South Carolina had with Tavian Feaster, who came in and got 750 yards plus for the Gamecocks. Then you can look on the other end, and you could have guys that transfer in and just don't do well. So I don't know how well they're going to do, but the other adage too is that, and I got several messages on this on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Why are they getting a quarterback when they have Luke Doty? Because they only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster that are under scholarship. That's why. You've got to have more than 2 quarterbacks in the quarterback room. Simple as that. Remember, last season, Colin Hill was there. Ryan Helinski was there. And there you go from there. That's it. So I think they had a Colin Gothier, I think is how his name's pronounced. I hope I didn't butcher his name. If his mama's listening, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to mess that up. Cal with a great line. Josh Belk. Yeah, you can go with that. He wasn't exactly the best transfer. Didn't take a snap. So, or did he play? I can't remember if he played much or not, but I know he ended up just leaving the program. So there's that. Sometimes transfers work. Sometimes they don't. I've got some transfers that did work. We'll go over those in a moment. But I want to get to the phones. What do you think about the Gamecocks picking up 2 guys in the transfer portal? One of them being a quarterback, and the other, of course, being Jenkins, which, By the way, EJ Jenkins, I think it's interesting that they get this guy because he is 6'8", as I said, 235 pounds. So he's put on some weight and caught 39 catches. 13 of those catches went for touchdowns. So obviously, big, huge guy at 6'8", 235 pounds. That is an area that the Gamecocks really needed some help, was on the wide receiver core. Former Gamecock Tim Frisbee joined us and talked about that for a good bit. Yeah, that's definitely an area that South Carolina needed some help. And then, hey, you get some depth in the quarterback room. Who knows? This kid Brown may come in and light it up. You never know until they get out there. There are guys that play at smaller schools that have done things at bigger schools. So it's not, you can look at it from the idea of, yeah, they were offered here, they were offered there, but they weren't really on the radar. And I get that. But FBS schools were coming after Jenkins, especially. I think he had offers from Charlotte and a couple of other schools. So Brandon says, so the St. Francis quarterback will likely be the Gamecocks' second string quarterback in 2021. I don't know. And I'll tell you why I don't know, because I don't know what Coach Satterfield is going to do and what Coach Beamer is going to do. This young man Brown may come in there and light the world on fire. He could be the starter. He could be third string. I don't know. He could transfer out after spring ball. You never know with some of the way that players do things. So I'm not going to sit here and try to blow a line of smoke at you. I am saying that when I look at just the measurables for Jenkins, I think that is a player that you kind of want to see get out there and see what he can do. Now, obviously, playing against a Power 5 speed compared to the speed from the Northeast Conference is going to be a completely different animal. And I think there's going to have to be some adjustment to that. But as far as just the physical talent of, hey, this guy is out there and he's this big and he did this stuff while he was at St. Francis, that might be something if you're a Gamecock fan to get happy about. One of the other things, too, they have 2 years left of eligibility with South Carolina. So they've got 2 years where they could get themselves squared away. Beth said I said SC State. I'm sorry. South Carolina is what I meant. So, yeah, the University of South Carolina. There we go. With the Gamecocks. That's where these two guys are going to end up playing. So, interesting stuff there. If you want to call and respond to that, 803-978-1832. I do have some players that transferred that people seem to forget, and they went somewhere else and actually played pretty good. The first one that comes to my mind is Russell Wilson. Of course, he started his career with NC State, played baseball there, and then transfers to Wisconsin and finishes out his career there. Here's another name, Jeff George, big-time quarterback. Played at Purdue one season, and then, of course, went to Illinois. 88 and 89, he played there, ended up going to the NFL, threw for 2,000, over 2,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 88. So, yeah, there's that. Was the number one overall pick in the draft in 1990 for the Colts. One other name, and I honestly did not know this when I was doing my research today. J.J. Watt in college transferred. I thought this guy was just going to be was just a Wisconsin guy. No, J.J. Watt started his career at Central Michigan. Did not know that. Ended up moving on to Wisconsin, and then, of course, made his mark there and ended up in the pros. All right, so if you want to talk a little bit about the transfers, have at it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jason Brown and EJ Jenkins coming into South Carolina from St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Would love to get your calls on that. Brandon Kuhn says Troy Aikman played at UCLA and somewhere else. I can't remember. But you can look at transfers do work. Remember, Cam Newton played at 3 colleges. People seem to forget that. Went to Florida, was Tim Tebow's backup. Got into trouble at Florida, stole a laptop allegedly, threw it out a window. Had to go to junior college for a year. Goes to junior college, makes his way to Auburn. Bam. The next season, he's the number 1 pick in the draft. So the transfer can work. I'm not saying that it will work, but it can. I remember the Brinkley brothers here at South Carolina, Jasper and Casper Brinkley. Both of those guys, if I remember correctly, transferred in. And Jasper Brinkley went on to the NFL. Tom is right online about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow couldn't get off the bench at Ohio State, transferred to LSU, and look what happened. So there's that. Let's head out to the phones. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Hello, Rob. This is Bobby in KC. How are you?
Hey, Bobby, what you got for the program today, sir?
Troy Aikman played at Oklahoma and UCLA.
There we go. I knew he played at UCLA. I forgot about the Oklahoma thing.
All right. And also, just one thing. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, greatest player of hockey of all time, over 2,800 points in the career. 60 years old today, believe it or not.
His daughter's hot, too, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I've been talking about that. And also, Eddie Van Halen would be 66 today. Another great one in rock and roll.
Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, man. Hey, good stuff today. But it's amazing that I remember Wayne Gretzky when I was a kid, but then it's like, oh, okay. He was outstandanding. A great player. So. Yeah,
and someone on another station just now who gives out birthdays called him the greatest. Well, the greatest was Muhammad Ali. Wayne Gretzky, in case anybody was listening to that other station, he's the great one.
The great one on ice is basically what it boils down to.
Yep. Anyway, you take care. But a sad note, too, a graduate assistant from Clemson unfortunately passed away from COVID-19. If I'm getting this name right, Todd Schonar. If I'm saying it right, it's on Grace Raymer's Twitter feed and Matt Conley's. He was a former football player and graduate assistant. I'm pretty sure I tweeted it to you. My internet's been acting up at home.
Yeah, man, it's sad when folks fall to the COVID, man. It's just sad.
Yeah, but that's just out on a sad note today. He passed away from COVID-19, 57 years young.
Crazy.
Take care, Rob. Have a good program.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. All right, there you go, Bobby, joining us today. Your thoughts on the Gamecocks getting the transfers in? We'll get into that. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Last night was interesting. Mike Uva posted a video of what was it? It was a YouTube video that had Darian Rencher from Clemson. And his girlfriend mentioned that Dabo Swinney had COVID-19, and basically that's why he wasn't at the awards banquet on the 16th of this month. But then it comes out that the university released a statement. They didn't say whether or not he had the virus or not, but they did say that he was working on campus. So I'm assuming if he's working on campus, that Dabo Swinney is squared away. So there's that. If you want to call and talk about any of the stuff we've been on today, 803-978-1832. We're going to talk about schedules here in a little bit. I pulled some schedules because I read an article that talked about the toughest schedules coming up for next season. And you know what? We'll jump into that now. I'm going to pull it up here, and it's really interesting when you stop and think about it. If you look at schedules, for me, I am in the camp of, when I look at schedules, I don't look at it from the perspective of, hey, you have your conference games and that's that. To me, great schedules are, I'm scheduling as a university to go and play home and homes with someone else. So we can get into that. But I also want to talk today about one other thing. Do you think it's time that we went to a 10-game conference schedule? Because in some ways, it could make a lot of sense. Now, I know there are going to be people that are going to tell me, and we talked about this yesterday, well, if the SEC does that, then that it will eliminate them from the national title talk, and that's just not very smart. I just don't buy that at all. Not buying that whatsoever. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to get into today. Can we all agree that there should be a 10-game conference schedule? I've got the Rob plan. That's what I'm calling it. I like the idea of a 10-game conference schedule. You keep your 12 games. Your 11th game has to be against a Power 5 team if you're a Power 5 school. Okay? Now, with South Carolina and Clemson, that would be easy. They would play each other. Not that crazy complicated. The 12th game, you use it for an in-state team. And that way you can keep the money coming in. Now, it bothers me when I see, I look at schedules like, and I've got Auburn's schedule in front of me. They're welcoming in Akron at the beginning of the season. They're going to pay Akron to come down there and get the snot kicked out of them by Auburn. I don't agree with all that. Just from an economic standpoint, why not help the teams that are in your state? Now, if things come about and you can't do that because, let's say, you're in a smaller state that doesn't have the state universities, whatever, it just makes no sense. One of the games should be against the Power 5 team, the other game against an in-state team. South Carolina and Clemson could rotate and play the Citadel, Furman, Wofford, South Carolina State, Coastal. Have all those teams on a steady mix there, where every season two of them are going to play and get the big payoff from in-state. That just makes the most sense to me. If you want to talk about that, 803-978-1832. The reason that I like that is because you will not have one weekend. We actually have 2 weekends every year that are hot dog water. And what I mean by that is that the games are so bad, you don't want to watch them. You know, you could be out in the yard doing some yard work and it's on in the background and it's playing. But at the half, you know, your team's up 21-0 and they're coasting to a win. That's not good for the sport. It's just not. Now, the backwards people will tell you, well, they have to build up to get all of these wins so they can be better as far as being a bowl team. You think that won't be fixed if everyone plays a 10-game conference schedule and does exactly what I talked about? All of that will level itself out. You're still going to have all these bowl games. All right? But you know what? You may send a team that's 4-8 to a bowl game that probably would have went 8-4 if they had the capability to schedule a bunch of teams that had no shot of beating them. It just makes the sport better, in my opinion. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I've got some of the toughest schedules, according to several different articles I've found over the past couple of days. We'll talk about that and which one is exactly the toughest. And we'll talk about the schedules that are not very good. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Brandon's right about that. I didn't want to just run the guy into the mud. But yeah, Chambers was not good. There's some other transfers. Kyler Murray, obviously, Jalen Hurts. They started at one school and went to another. Does anybody remember any FCS guys that transferred over that actually it worked out well for them? Let me know over there because I couldn't really remember any, to be honest with you. I found some folks that watch. I found some sugar-free Red Bull, the pear, which makes me sound like I'm an idiot. But I like the pear edition of the sugar-free Red Bull. I like that, and I like the Sobe water, the mandarin orange. I love that too, but some of these Tom Brady people are all over Tampa Bay now. Yeah. How many? You know what? I've noticed that I've seen more Bucks fans now than I've seen before. You know what I'm saying? That's a good point too there, Brock. but you may not have enough teams to fill them out. That's the other thing. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Josh, I agree with you, buddy. You are absolutely right. You feel like, I don't know, man, there's going to be tons of people that are, I'm a Bucks fan now. Stop it. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you would like to join us here on the Rundown. All right, so I've got some stuff I want to get into with you about scheduling. You know, the big thing with schedules for me, I mentioned my plan earlier. It's simple. 10 conference games. It's time that this happens. Athletic directors need to get together and do this. And you can pick on any college that you want. But let's be honest. Most colleges lie about the we've had 77 years of sellouts. No, you haven't. Okay? When ESPN does their wide shot, it doesn't work for you. All right, but let's put that to bed for a second. But you've also got this. If you look at some of these off games, what I mean by that is that the games like Akron and who else? Georgia State, just looking at Auburn's schedule in front of me. Those games aren't going to go crazy with people going to these games. People just don't care. I know that sounds silly, but they truly just don't care. So when I look at some of the schedules, some of the toughest schedules, according to the report that the actual, what was it? The report that I found earlier. This is really neat. So when you look at it from this perspective, some of the toughest schedules for next season are, you could start with Auburn. Now, this is why I look at their non-conference schedule. They play 4 non-conference games to start the season. Now, if this is the way that their schedule ends up, that's how it will go. If they, well, actually, no, they'll play 3 to start and then 1 on November 20th. But their non-conference schedule they go on the road to Penn State. On the road to Penn State. That's pretty impressive. I guarantee you the people from Alabama would not do that. We're not doing a home and home with them. They're beneath us. The arrogancy of some teams is what kills college football scheduling. But the rest of their schedule is pretty interesting. They've got Alabama at home, Georgia at home. They go to LSU and they play at Texas A&M. So that is pretty tough. We don't know how each of these teams are going to be. Nobody thought that LSU was going to be a 5-win team last year. I thought they were going to be an 8-win team. Didn't really work out that way. Another tough schedule, according to this report from I think the big one was on the 247 sports site, is Florida State. They open up with Notre Dame at home. They play Florida on the road. That's pretty tough. So 2 of their 4 non-conference games are against teams that finished in the top 15 this past season. That's pretty good. They also have to go to Clemson and they play Miami. And they get North Carolina. We forgot to throw that in there. And NC State was a pretty good team at the end of the season. So Florida State's schedule, theoretically, here in January on the 26th, looks tough for next season. Arkansas, in my opinion, I think they have one of the toughest schedules in the country. They will play Texas at home. They also go, they play Texas A&M on the road. They go to Alabama. They have Auburn at home. They play Georgia on the road. They play on the road at LSU. And they got to go to Ole Miss. So when you look at Arkansas' schedule, tough, tough, tough. It really is. Some other schedules that I looked at here. I've got, let's see here, one more. Oh, the LSU schedule. LSU plays at UCLA, which, once again, scheduling out of another Power 5 team makes a lot of sense to me. But the rest of their non-conference schedule is not very impressive. But they do go to Alabama. They do play at Mississippi State, and they've also got Auburn on the schedule and Florida. So LSU schedule theoretically could be really tough next season. Now, I have Alabama's schedule in front of me, and actually we'll do South Carolina's first. When you look at South Carolina's schedule, their schedule, they think is going to be one of the tougher ones too, according to several different things that I've read. I don't know about Eastern Illinois and East Carolina or Troy, but I do know playing Clemson is going to be tough. They also have to go to Georgia. They've got Auburn again, who they beat this year, one of their 2 wins. So not throwing that out there too much, but you've also got Florida on the schedule and also Texas A&M. So you can make the argument South Carolina's schedule is tough. Now, when I look at Alabama's schedule, the Alabama fans will be coming at me because, once again, we play in the SEC and we play neutral site games. They're going to get a Miami team at a neutral site game at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, whatever it is they call it, in Atlanta. They may not have De'Aaron King back. So they're going against Miami's second-string quarterback, who is not very good, let's just be honest. In the first game of the season, they're going to blow Miami out by probably 3 touchdowns, and they're going to come back to us and say, that was the toughest non-conference schedule ever. No. Don't look at Mercer. Don't look at New Mexico State or Southern Miss. No. Just look at what we did with Miami at a neutral site. And, oh, by the way, De'Aaron King didn't play. Also, for Alabama this year, they get LSU at home. They have to go to Florida. And what was the other game? Oh, they do have to go to Auburn. So there's that. But the Alabama folks will be all about it. And they'll want to rip, run, and go crazy about their schedule being one of the toughest. And theoretically, it's not. It's really not. They get up for what? 3 games for the year, basically. Hopefully LSU bounces back. That would be one. Going to Auburn's always tough. And I guess going to Florida. Florida's probably not going to be that great this year. Just saying. Betting against Alabama, especially with the schedule that they have, is not a very good idea. Tom says what we need is Southern Cal versus South Carolina for the battle for USC. That's funny. I could see that. Put something on it. Hey, if you get it, you get to be referred to as the USC, and then go from there. That could be worthwhile. Anyway, if you want to talk about that and my idea for the 10-game conference schedule, give me a call at 803-978-1832. We can also talk about the transfer portal. Yeah, that's all there for you too. So check that out. The full write-up on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. In addition to Darian Rencher talking about Dabo Sweeney, saying, yeah, Dabo had COVID-19. So that's up on the blog page there too. Be sure to check that out and I post stuff on my Facebook timeline and all of that. It's I try to keep up with as much news as I possibly can and get that out to you as quickly as I can. All right, so we'll take a quick break. We'll have more for you when we come back here on the Rundown. Don't forget, as I said, the blog page right there for you. A couple of guests coming in this week. Tomorrow, Terrence Oglesby, ESPN analyst, former Clemson basketball player, joins us to talk a little bit about how COVID is affecting basketball teams around the country, in addition to what has happened to the Clemson team. We'll get into that. and a lot more with him. Mike Mooneyham from the Post and Courier joins us on Friday. Talk a little wrestling here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Brock is absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. If South Carolina gets to a point where they don't schedule Clemson, just saying. Grover says you don't get to build up Miami just because they play in Clemson. Then they nobody when they play Bama. Okay, you're not following along, Sir Grover. Let me help you. If they were going into Miami and actually scheduled a home and home, that would make more sense to me. Not a neutral site game. And also the first game of the season, we don't know if De'Aaron King's going to be back or not. If it was the third game of the season and a home game on the road for Miami, then it's completely different. But Alabama is so arrogant, they won't schedule that. I guess it's fear. What is it? Why not put other non-conference games on your schedule that are tough? Are you just going to hide behind, I play in the SEC and you have to deal with that? Silly. You guys are welcome to call. Hey, like the video up there if you could. The video would be great. Help out the YouTube channel a little bit. Appreciate you guys stopping in to check it out, by the way. Kings, that's a good point. You can make the argument they could go 8-2. I don't know. We'll have to see. You're welcome to call and debate the Miami, the Miami Alabama game. And once again, I'm not saying that I'm right about all this stuff. Let's make sure we put that out there. But on the other hand, it's like silly. I don't. You think they go 8? Well, it depends on who they replace them with there, too, buddy. That's kind of a tall reach there. 8-2, first year. Ugh. Welcome back to the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Shout out to Martha watching or listening. Appreciate you, ma'am. Also, folks in the chat room, too. Some comments. Slim Shady says, I might have to call and debate the Miami-Bama game. Okay, 803-978-1832. Grover says, you don't get to build up Miami just because they're playing Clemson, and then they are nobody when they play Alabama. Well, once again, it's about the home and home. Clemson and Miami play a home and home in theory. Clemson will play there. Miami will play at Clemson. It's completely different than a neutral site game. Sorry, that's just reality. What you're saying is home field advantage means nothing then, right? When Alabama does things like this, they schedule it where, okay, we're not going to play here. We'll play at a neutral site. And it's just not, it's not the same. Neutral site games are garbage. It's just the way that it is. The only time you should have a neutral site game is at the end of the season with bowl games. But when it counts at the beginning of the season, no, it's not the same thing. A couple of other notes. Kingslayer says if A&M and Clemson weren't on the Gamecocks schedule, he thinks South Carolina would go like 8-2. That's what Kingslayer says there. Brock says, I wish South Carolina's rival from the West was still Arkansas. Yeah, I mean, not South Carolina's never won the Bonham Trophy, which is what you get for winning against Texas A&M in that series. So one of the other things here, let's see here. Grover also says everything on South Carolina's schedule is winnable except Clemson, Georgia, and Texas A&M. I have to look at that and make sure I got the schedule right in front of me. Well, it depends on how Auburn is. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that. When I look at South Carolina's schedule, I think that right now, it's, it's kind of hard to think that I think that they're better than Tennessee. Tennessee's got 23 players in the transfer portal right now. They may not have enough to practice for the spring. Seriously. I mean, it's a mess right now up at Tennessee, and you don't know what they're facing. Kentucky's won 5 out of the last 6, so they got to get over that. Florida is at Williams-Brice Stadium. I don't know how good Florida's going to be. Auburn, the same way. I think Auburn's going to be bad. I don't think Auburn's just going to be bad. Let's see here. Also, East Carolina, I think they win that. I think they win over Eastern Illinois, and I think they win over Troy. Mizzou may be interesting at Faurot Field. Connor Bazelak, I think, is going to be one of the guys that's looked at the beginning of the season that people are going to think, man, this guy could be special up at Mizzou. Now Mizzou doesn't get any love from anyone else as far as the SEC folks go. Their mentality is Mizzou doesn't belong in the SEC. It's actually kind of comical when you really step back and look at it. I mean, Mizzou's had 2 SEC East titles since they joined the league, but they, in 2014, but no, they don't belong. They're not a football power. It's one of those funny things that just doesn't make any sense. And it's funny because the SEC media, when they go to media days, they'll have Mizzou picked, 4th or 5th in the East, simply because they're just like, oh, Mizzou doesn't matter. It's definitely there. It's the way that it is. Kingslayer says, I wouldn't necessarily sleep on Troy. Remember what happened back between them and LSU a few years back? Yeah, but it's not the same team. South Carolina's can run with Kevin Harris, and if they can put in the offense and get him some carries, that guy will never quit. And I think with him alone, they beat Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, Troy, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. I'd be stunned next season if South Carolina didn't have at least 5 wins just on Kevin Harris. Now, if he gets hurt, completely different thing. Let's make sure we put that out there. All right, out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
What's going on, boss man?
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to throw a couple of opinions at you about that Miami-Alabama game.
Sure, have at it.
Well, me personally, number one, and a lot of people that tend to follow Miami on a daily basis,
right,
are still debating whether or not King may actually make spring.
Right, we don't know, so, and I'm not a doctor, but when you have that ACL tear, you don't know. I mean, King is great because he can make plays with his feet, move around the pocket, and do things like that. So for that to come back, that takes time. And I don't know if he's I don't know if he's going to be completely 100% at the beginning of the season. That's my big thing with that.
Well, the point that they were trying to make when they said that was that all the reports are coming out, it may not have been that severe of an injury.
Okay.
It may have only been a partial tear.
Sure. And God bless him. Hopefully it's not. I don't like any player being injured.
No, I hate to see anybody go down, Miami player or otherwise. Now, as far as the backup quarterback situation, there's nobody that has a single clue what Miami's backup quarterback looks like.
Exactly.
Because as of right now, nobody knows who Miami's backup quarterback is.
I think that's going to be a problem across a lot of teams around the country. But yeah, you're right. That's why I'm saying, if you have your backup who you don't know who it is right now going up against Alabama, that's not going to work out well for you. I don't care who it is.
Well, Alabama's defense has been suspect all year, and me personally, from what I've seen of Alabama this year, I think they may be falling into the trap Miami fell into around 2003, 2002. I think they're putting too many players in the NFL too fast, and they're going to have to rely on young, unreliable players. And the beginning of the season is when you would catch a team like that.
Well, and that's fair too, but it should be one of the more interesting matchups. It's a lot more interesting, though. Would you agree? Would it be a lot more interesting if they signed a home and home where they came to Coral Gables one year, and then the next year you got Miami went to Alabama? It just makes so much more sense. The neutral site game is just garbage.
Oh, I completely hate them. I think, and I realize how this is going to sound being a Miami fan, but I think that college football games should be played, on college campuses. And I realize Miami doesn't have one; they've never had one. I mean, so people can that argument's so old it doesn't even bother me.
Their home schedule, it's their home stadium, so let's just be honest on that front. But it just takes away from the college football, man. The game should be played at the home stadiums, in my opinion.
Yeah, and listen, this is why I think Miami can have a chance in a game like that.
Sure.
Their defense is sneaky good. I mean, they had a little drop off this year, but they didn't have that standout, All-American corner or D tackle like they've had the past couple of years. But you have guys that are probably going to develop into that this year.
Well, and Miami's been active on the transfer portal as well, so they may get some guys that can infuse some talent there, but we'll see.
Oh, absolutely. And then as far as I brought up quarterback a minute ago, like I said, nobody's going to know if King's not ready to go. Nobody's going to know what to expect out of Miami's backup quarterback. So you either have, 4-star, number 3 pocket passer Tyler Van Dyke, who they picked up. 4-star, number 4 pocket passer, Jake Garcia, who they just picked up in this year's recruiting class. You've still got Tate Martell floating around there, who maybe not at quarterback, but can be a dangerous weapon as far as confusing a defense anyway, and throwing some trick plays in there.
I hear you on that, man. And a lot of that makes sense, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful to your team, but I just think first game of the season, no De'Aaron King, neutral site. I think it's going to be tough for Miami to get a win here.
Oh, no doubt. But I'm not one of those people that tries to blow sunshine up the Miami fan base. I'm harder on my own team than I am anybody else's. And it believe me, if they can pull it off, it's going to take some smoke and mirrors, no doubt. And like I said, maybe the ability of catching a young, inexperienced Alabama team off guard first game of the season.
Good stuff, man. Hey, I appreciate you joining us here on the Rundown this afternoon. Thanks so much, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go. So a Miami optimist thinks that they could catch a young Alabama defense. Not trying to be disrespectful. I think Alabama wins that game by probably at least a couple of touchdowns if De'Aaron King doesn't play. Now, he mentions the smoke and mirrors. The smoke and mirrors, I mean, maybe that's De'Aaron King and the things that he can do. Mobile quarterbacks give Nick Saban problems. Out to the phones we go. Welcome to the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Rob, it's Bobby from KC. I
Hi,
got a double dip, man.
Oh,
obviously, your previous caller right there wasn't much of a Hurricane fan because I had brought up on this program, Nosey Perry's decided not to transfer out.
Oh, so they're going to have Perry back
too. So Perry will be there. So but the problem is Perry's going to get spooked.
Alabama wins by 17
Yeah. Right now. Oh, yeah. I'm born and raised in Miami. I say Alabama's going to whip them. But plain and simple. But that's the thing. Like you said, the severity of King's ACL tear was if he starts right away. Well, Perry decided, well, I'm going to transfer out again. But as far as of right now today, because I caught it on Twitter, he's coming back.
Well, okay. That may work out well for them. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, he was a starter before King transferred from Louisville, but when King went down in that bowl game with the ACL tear, I mean, he brought it back. It was a high-scoring game. He made it close.
Right, but
he'll be able to carry on, last year's offense.
Wasn't he also the starter that couldn't get a point scored against Louisiana Tech?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. He was. I mean, Rhett Lashley's offense was kind of schizophrenic. I agree.
All right, buddy.
But it's Perry. Perry should be, unless this kid that you mentioned, the 4-star that your caller mentioned, is coming in. I think it's Garcia.
Yeah.
That he might be the starter. But I mean, well, what fits best? What? You know, Manny Diaz is going to call the plays on defense and give Rhett Lashley, you know, call the plays on offense and leave him alone. So what fits best? What works best for him? Who grasps the system quick enough will be the starter in game 1. But I think Alabama will whip them pretty bad.
Yeah, well,
they're just that good. They're going to reload.
Way ahead too, man. But
yeah, all right.
I agree.
Plenty of time. All right, bye, Rob.
Thanks. Man. All right, there you go with that. Yeah, I'm not too impressed with Perry anyway. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Slim says Perry's leaving when he graduates in April. I don't know. Bobby says he's not. I don't know. I don't keep enough track of the quarterback situation at Miami, but I do know that De'Aaron King is a great player, and if he's not playing, then there's a problem. Brock, off the top rope, Macho Man Randy Savage style, says Miami is the Tennessee of the ACC. Slow down, sir. Tennessee is the worst program in the SEC right now. So I don't think that's not even remotely close. Not even the remotely close there. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's edition of The Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. That's off the top rope, Brock. You should be ashamed of yourself for that. Hilarious, though. Remember when Miami was like really good? I mean, they were terrible. I mean, they were at a point where they were really bad, but then not so much. Or they were really great, and then they got really mediocre, is basically the way it came down. That's kind of I don't know, man. Kingslayer, that's funny. What lies am I spreading there, Alan? Please tell me what lie I'm spreading, sir. I'd love to hear it. What lie am I spreading? Just saying. Tennessee's the worst program in the SEC. I don't know, man. I love how I put stuff out there that's my opinion, and people think I'm lying. It's like I just sit around at night and think, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to lie to people on the radio. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spread lies and just throw out things that aren't accurate. No. I try to bring you as much fact as I can in the show, but I definitely have my opinion on things, and I'm not always right. I'm the guy that thought that Jeremy Pruitt was going to be good. Just saying. I laugh, though, because it's really funny. Really, really funny. Grover, if I'm being honest, I don't know a single Gamecock fan who was either mad about the firing or Mrs. Muschamp. I know a couple people that like what Muschamp was doing. I'm not saying they are out there. So one, and they're like, we're back. You might be right about that, Brock. That's funny. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Folks watching on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Appreciate them. All right, look, I got to get this out there really quick today. You know, I've said, and I've mentioned the first program in the SEC simply because of, well, let's be honest, they haven't been really good for a while now. And they got 23 players in the recruiting, in the transfer portal. I don't know how many guys they're going to have that are out there. Currently, they have no coach. Okay. There's been some talk too about different guys that are in the mix. And I've read some stuff here that kind of made me think a little bit. Over the weekend, it was some of the coaches that were in line to possibly take that job were Sonny Dykes from Southern Meth, SMU. I don't know why I have trouble with that today. Clemson offensive coordinator Tony Elliott, which as of Sunday night, I'd heard that he hadn't even been contacted yet. And then, of course, the other interesting name was PJ Fleck. Look, I know at Tennessee, they're going to do the best they can to get the best coach. I get that. And I don't think it's an issue of money as much at Tennessee, even though, money is important, but I think Tennessee would overpay for the right guy. But I just don't think that it's going to work out with PJ Fleck. And I don't know if PJ Fleck wants to go from Minnesota, where he's been building things and getting them to a point where they're on the lines of being a fairly relevant program in the Big Ten compared to where they were. Now they're going to be a pretty good team. He's building a solid base there. I just don't know if, and I feel this way about a lot of coaches. Do you really want to go to Tennessee? And you have to be sold on what Tennessee was. And if I'm Tennessee, I take Peyton Manning with me on every single interview. And I have Peyton Manning there doing what Peyton Manning does, which is sell. He can sell things. That's why he has ads all over the place. And you have Peyton Manning come in and talk about the joy that Tennessee is and why Tennessee is a valid program and how they can possibly maybe get some of these allegations where they don't get pinned as much. Okay? Maybe they don't lose quite as many scholarships. Maybe they avoid a bowl ban. I don't know. Maybe they put out all that stuff they were talking about when they fired Pruitt and Fulmer was basically fired, when they were talking all this language about, severe violations here and there. And they had to use that to kind of level their case there so that they didn't have to pay Pruitt his buyout. But if they can talk with someone, they need to have Peyton Manning on that call. And Manning needs to meet with them, and he needs to be the guy that, obviously you have other people there, but the guy who leads the conversation should be Peyton Manning. And he should talk about how great Tennessee is and how great the fan base is and, the stadium and what is it? The boat parade they have before the game. I don't even remember what the name of it is, but all of that needs to be brought into it. And maybe it's not going to be as bad as it was or what we think it's going to be. And in some realms, it may not be, but that's how they need to go. And to be honest with you, I'd much rather go with a younger guy. If you're not going to go with Bill O'Brien, who's the perfect example, even though now he's the offensive coordinator at Alabama and it's not going to happen. That's who I would have thrown my money at because he got Penn State out of the mess that they were in. And that makes the most sense. James Franklin would be another pick, but right now you're getting late, Tennessee. You got to get your stuff together. Otherwise, you may end up with Kevin Steele as this year's coach, and then you're done, in my opinion. Because our kid's going to come in and basically going to want to play for Kevin Steele? No. Your season's going to be terrible anyway if you have all these guys that transfer. You got to get somebody in and get some firm grounding there. But Tennessee right now, they call it the Vol Navy. Thank you, Alan. They got to figure something out, and they need to do it quickly. And I don't know if it's Tony Elliott. I don't know if it's Sonny Dykes. I don't think it's going to be PJ Fleck. Maybe it's Penn State. We shall see with their coach, with James Franklin. Tomorrow on the rundown, we're going to talk some hoops. Friday, we talk wrestling. Royal Rumbles this weekend. Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is the czar of Clemson Sports. Listen to him on the vast Clemson Sports Talk radio network. Also around the horn, around the world on the iHeartRadio app, wherever you are. My name is Rob Sanders. I'll be back at it tomorrow. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast up at 5 o'clock. Thanks for listening to the rundown right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I did see that with Steven Garcia. I wonder if he's just trolling, though. Just trying to put stuff out there, Brock. It's kind of hard for me to take Steven Garcia seriously when You know, there's video out there of him pounding beers with Clemson Tom and throwing footballs. I don't really get into all of that. Don't really get into all that. Bowl games don't matter according to SEC fans, Alan. If the SEC does crummy in bowl games, the bowl games don't matter. It's just the way that it is. All right, you guys rock, man. Give the video a like up here. Help out the program a little bit. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.